Remember when the, let's see, what was the next thing that happened? Well, basically, after that incident, I was having migraines again more frequently, and this camera is really bothering me because it's showing this weird box stuff again around my face again, and it's just annoying, it's distracting. Around that time, well, my son, the things that were happening besides that is I was discovering my son was really, really very smart. And I think some people in some cultures, they understand what something called the evil eye, where there's this idea that if you brag about or talk about, or if anybody finds out about how smart your child is, it invites the jealousies of the mythological or religious idea of the evil eye, which is the idea that some higher deity or a group of people will attack your child and do something to harm them because of this jealousy. And I really had no idea, even if people assaulted me, I was still coming to grips with the whole idea of that this was like a federal repeated gang rape thing that was going on. And the military migraines, even though I was starting to figure out what that was about, I didn't, I had almost 100% idea, but not completely yet. I was probably 70% sure that that's what was going on. But I had more confirmation when I then had some court things that happened then in Washington State. And the same thing was done in Washington that was done to me when I had legal matters in Oregon. So I never thought, I did think that I was being attacked and assaulted in some ways, and harassed, but I never imagined that somebody would literally assault and torture a child. I mean, regardless of whether I was saying my son was, bringing up things about what he was able to do, or no matter how jealous someone was, or how bad a group was, I never thought that anybody would do anything to hurt a kid. I thought that somebody might try to take him from me because that's what they wanted to do, and they knew that would hurt me and not be good for him. But I never thought that somebody would try to hurt my child. I just thought that was, even if I had religious hate crime occurring against me in this country, which was incredible enough, I did not believe that it was possible for, it would be possible for things to be done to my son out of jealousy. And I was wrong. The only people that I was emailing about all the things that my son was doing in his development and that kind of thing were my mother. Robin Bechtold, for whatever reason. I started copying him. I didn't specifically send him notes or anything, but I copied him on the information that all my son could do. And then some old friends from the past, I copied them. And then, aside from that, the only person outside of people that I already knew that I said anything to was on a website that this guy had in Malaysia. And he was a United Kingdom citizen, and he was Irish, from Northern Ireland originally. And even if there were some Italian Americans involved in doing some bad things and banning me from different buildings, there were a lot of Irish Americans that I realized were involved in torturing my son and harassing me. And where those Irish Americans were coming from, I'm not sure if it was partly from people that Robin knew through his Irish connections, or people that this United Kingdom man knew through his Northern Irish connections. Because he was living in Malaysia, and I was writing to him on his blog. It was pretty much the only site that I went to, aside from doing research on highly gifted children. And I was trying to raise my son the best that I could, you know, according to his age and development. I was trying to find out what was average, normal for a kid, what things they might be doing, what things a parent could do to help encourage their growth, and just child development in general. And what I discovered is my son was way ahead of the average. And I guess since every parent loves their own child so much, and since every parent feels that their own child is very special and valuable and has a lot of worth, which they all do, for whatever reason, it really makes some people angry and jealous to hear that, to hear somebody talking about how their own child is so far ahead of the norm. And I think it makes some parents want to knock that parent and their child down. And they don't want it to be true for whatever reason. I think the other person that I was talking to about this was Krista Schneider, and I was telling her, sending her emails about all the things that my son was doing. He was way ahead of... I basically didn't just write emails saying he seems to be way ahead of the norm. I sent specific incidences of things that he was doing. Today he did this. Today he reached for the doorknob. Today he took his first step. He cut his first tooth at 2 months of age. He is running. Today he kicked a ball. He spent over an hour trying to figure out how to zip and unzip my sweater. He has I think then that he has a very unusually long attention span. He laughs at all the funny jokes. He knows and understands what's funny. Things that an adult would typically only know that are funny, he knows. He tried to trick me. Today he tried to manipulate me and get me to do what he wanted me to do by thinking about how he could do it, and then he laughed when he knew that he had gotten me. He made a game out of it when he was a baby. So he was doing things like that before, you know, really, really early, before 9 months of age. And I was writing down, I was detailing in specific detail all the different things he was doing, which were way ahead of the average. He didn't, according to all the highly gifted stuff that I was reading, he wasn't at the very, very, very top of the what do you call them? The ones that are genius, but they're so genius, it's very incredibly unusual. Not savant, because it wasn't autism that he had at all. But he wasn't. There's like normal, then there was highly gifted, and there was very highly gifted. Then there at the very, very top there is I mean, like, your Einstein, the absolute most unusual cases, you know, the one or two in the world type of a thing. He was not just a little bit like above average. He was hitting into the higher than genius category, but not into the, and if I looked at the terminology again, I'd remember exactly what it was, that the group that he was falling into according to what he was doing. But he was not like the one or two exceptions, but just a couple steps down from that. According to what I was reading, and I read a ton, and I was doing a ton of research, that's what he was doing. So he's doing all these things, and I believe somebody got jealous and didn't like it. The last time I ever had any correspondence with the Northern Ireland supporter, who was a United Kingdom citizen and lived in Malaysia, the last time I got any response from him, I had asked him about religious hatred in the United States, and did he know anything about it, because I was Protestant, and I was having a lot of religious hatred over here from Catholics. And he's Catholic, and he never responded to me after I sent that email, and then it was shortly after that that my son and I were tortured. And what happened is that we had, the first thing that occurred is there was this big, really weird sensation